Hey, y'all. Thank you very much for listening to the No Fruit Podcast. I have a question for y'all. From the sidelines to center stage, what did y'all learn in your kids' activities as they were growing up? Let's talk about it right after this.
Let's talk about love and marriage the way that God intended. A life experience, here we share it. The No Fruit Podcast. Tune in from any platform. No Fruit Podcast. Will help your spirit transform.
Hello.
Hey, y'all. What's going on? So, you heard the question, about or the idea from the sidelines to center stage, just some of the things that we learned in dealing with our kids and some of their activities. So, for myself, I learned that first and foremost, kind of what I really wanted as a kid. I wanted my mom to be a little more active, to be a part. But again, y'all heard us talk about, hey, survival mode and, paycheck to paycheck or whatever it might have been. That was not always on the forefront of my mom's mind. And to be honest, because of that, it wasn't always necessarily in my forefront either.
As a parent or
as a parent.
Okay.
It wasn't until Kafi said something about home and school. I think Kafi said something, then the school said something, or vice versa. But it seemed like for me, when the kids were in elementary school, it's kind of like back to back, or whatever. And then I think Kafi had wanted to be a part of it. I mean, even up through them being in high school, Kafi doing after school or after prom stuff or whatever it might have been. And so again, it's those things where you're kind of like, hey, I wish my parent was in the same position. I wish my parent did do that. When we had moments when we talk about sidelines, hey, y'all know that we coached. I coached basketball, I coached football, with both our children. And so I had the opportunity to be around them in multiple places and levels, and actually able to see them grow and mature, or whatever it is. So there were some things that I learned that I kind of like, hey, I wish my parent was there for
that. For me, I'm coming from a different point of view, not from a personal point of view. So I learned a lot about the first thing that came to mind when you said the question was how crazy parents are. How crazy they are for their kids, how they go hard for their kids, how they will argue you down as a coach, and
most definitely,
them not knowing the system, but coming at you like they do. Then I learned a lot about the system, whether it was coaching and all of the layers that went along with that and that entity, and then what their parent was, and
right.
It was a lot, in an organization. So it is it is a nonprofit organization. But when somebody's, when you see the signs that says join up for, flag football, when you see the signs that say, youth league, sign up now, like you, as a parent, I'm not thinking about all of the intricacies that goes into to making that happen. Not just to sign up, but how to even make it go from sign up to championship or, end of year, end of season banquet. I didn't understand all of that. But being a coach and being active in it was so opening for me. And likewise, to then say, hey, center stage, what that was like to be a part of the Home and School Association. And again, all of the intricacies that it takes, not only for the Home and School Association and how we're trying to help the school be better for the kids and how the school can be better for the community,
Right.
Because that was the thing I heard as a high schooler, that a lot of people on my block in high school was like, why I pay so much for taxes? I don't even have any kids in this school district. So once our kids got older, I wanted to make sure that the community understood what their taxes were going towards, so that it wasn't like, well, why do I pay, again, thousands of dollars in taxes out here in the county? Other counties may be different. And then I'm not, they felt as though they weren't reaping any benefit from it, especially for when our kids were going to school. The majority of the school was filled with students who were bused from outside of our town.
Right.
So, again, our neighbors were like, wow, like, why do we pay so much? And we're not even filling up the school. There was talks about,
mergers.
Mergers, closing the school down and all of those things. So what did I learn from all of that is that there's so much more to it than just, your kid running a football. There's so much more to it than the kid, jumping and playing basketball. Like, there's so much more to it.
I mean, and some of that is, now we're only coming from a real, no, we're coming from multiple different ways, because if you hear the statement of sidelines to center stage, well, I don't know how many of y'all know, but our kids did some acting too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, because of my connections with some producers and directors, whatever it is, I mean, my kids are in some short films.
Right.
And so, so the reality is that we have broadened our children's scope.
Right.
Right.
And it went to the degree where even our son had gone to college at one, and for film and media arts.
Right.
Because he wanted to be behind the camera. He liked that, I guess, but didn't want to be in front of the camera. So that experience that Maurice had provided to him was great. And he had wanted to do that and had been in some high school clubs, tech club and things like that, where he was
behind
in charge behind the camera
and the soundboard.
And the soundboard and all of those things. And he wanted to do that, where he even himself had directed and had to put together a small film as one of his in his college for one of his projects. So, like Maurice is saying, that the kids are well versed in that because of the things that we provided for them.
I mean, and so when it comes to it, when you talked about the parents going hard for their kids,
yes,
but I think in that they're in them going hard for the kids. Yes, some of it is I want the best for them.
Yes,
but there are some where it's really like I really want the best for me.
Right. When we had some parents that told us, like, look, this kid is my ticket out of this neighborhood.
Right.
So you have to play my kid, and you have to make sure that they're practicing hard, because I need them to get to this type of school so they can get to professionals. Right.
And now here's the problem with that. We understand that all kids don't get that experience. And understand that even certain clubs, or when I say clubs, I'm talking about teams and or their team name, whatever it is, wherever they're located, whatever it might be.
Right.
And I'll speak based off of, as I stated, y'all know that I coach Little League football, and so in my estimation, for where the football team that I coached, we had some challenges in actually winning games. Mm-hmm. And some of that is because of what? We were in some cases undersized, so we were little. And
the players or the
players.
Okay.
So the players were undersized, and the and were not as athletic, didn't have enough speed or whatever it might have been. And so when we were, and then the fact that where that particular team was, it was surrounded almost literally by a whole bunch of other teams, literally. Whereas where some teams that we played were in a whole nother part of the county where they were literally isolated in our league. So basically, when they recruited kids and kids played for that team, they only had kids that was part of that team. So they were able to recruit kids of a different caliber.
Right.
Also, because it was so few of them or of those teams out there that, hey, you know what? I can have the same age group, let's say 9-10-year-olds. We could have 3 to 5 teams with number 9-year-olds because we're the only team here.
Yes.
So guess what? That means that out of those, as everybody knows, you need 11 players on the team, right? You know, at least, well, you need more than that, but, you know, because you need 4 to 5 as backups. So let's just use 10 as a round number, round number. So that means you have at least 50 kids trying out for the team or teams. That means that now I get to pick and choose who are literally the best
Right.
out of every group, out of every lineman, defensive lineman, linebacker, and I could create my super team.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
That type of team won the championship, felt like all the time.
Right.
Almost all the time. And then I just looked at them recently, and they changed leagues, and they won even in that league.
Wow.
Because, again, it could feel like a super team versus being in a more condensed area, right? And you're competing. So now you have, all right, if I go over to this team over here, well, they're a little bit bigger. They're a little stronger. You know, so it doesn't necessarily mean that the coaches are any different, right? But the coaching is different, even though it is because of personalities and all that type of stuff. But the type of players, also the schools they attended as well. Say, you know what, all these Catholic school kids, they ended up going over here to this particular, team over here.
Yeah.
Or technically, my kids grew up with them, but they go to school over here. But I'm gonna keep them with their their real friends or whatever. So again, I learned a whole lot of not just, hey, I need them to be my meal ticket, but it's also, hey, I'm trying to make sure that they're comfortable and or they have the other opportunities that I didn't have. Like you said, win a championship. Like, yo, you go and be a part of that team that that's all they do all day, every day.
Yeah.
Better opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? Now that means that my kid is moving up to another level. Even though they may not make the team, but the way they practice, the way they teach football, whatever it is a whole nother lifestyle.
And it's a lot different than what we grew up with. No, I didn't play sports as a youngster, but I did participate in other extra activities outside of school. They were school-based. They were held in the school, but they were, outside of, regular educational activities. So those times and the people who were active in it and whatever, it was a lot different than what it was once I got older as an adult and I became a parent. Like I didn't see a lot of parent participation in my after-school activities when I was growing up. The teachers were there. The teachers led my after-school activities. When I learned how to crochet, my teacher led it. When I learned, and did after-school, the theater, that was led by the teaching staff. Music class, the glee clubs, the concerts, all those things were led by our teaching staff and things like that, or teachers' assistants or whatever else they had in the school. It wasn't a lot of that I saw a lot of things that were led by our parents. Even like Girl Scouts, it wasn't, sometimes it started in school. I think the first meeting I went to was in school. I think we eventually, went to having meetings outside of the school, but a lot of those things were school based, and it was a lot of it was started with a faculty, or a teacher in the school, where a lot of things, I think, once we became parents, and I became a parent, a lot of things were parent led, or it was more of a collaboration with the teaching staff. And I can't say like it was taught by a parent, but when we had some of the activities, I can still say, parents were very, very active in those things.
But I think that was a culture / community
difference.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm getting at. I think, no knock on where we grew up and the school district we grew up in, being Philadelphia. Like, I still to this day, and I need to ask more people. I don't know many people who have kids in the Philadelphia school district, but is there a PTO there? Do they have to raise funds? Like, when we were coming up and, raising our kids in elementary school, like, it was no issue for me to tell my boss, like, oh, I have to leave early because I have to go do this after school program thing.
But
they were like, oh, yeah, I have to do the same thing.
But see, I think it's a community situation,
right.
Because if you really think about it, though.
And I'm saying, like, for you may have had an issue trying to tell your people at work that you have to go do something for school because they were like, why?
Because of they were not active,
mm-hmm.
right? And or people didn't necessarily care.
Right.
And so for me to sit here and say to anybody, I coach kids, one, they're like, all right, Maurice, you're special, for one. But then number two, because I wasn't in corporate America when I coached,
right,
the people that I was around, i.e. when I think I kind of started right before or during the time I was a church administrator. Well, here's the thing, though. The pastor
mm-hmm.
was a coach.
Yes.
And so when people knew that I coached too, they were like, oh, wow, like you're special or whatever it is, you're different. So I didn't have the individuals that were like, oh, no, I would never,
mm-hmm.
Vibe, because I didn't have that mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And the pastor, he was like, no, go ahead and do it. Like,
right.
make it happen. And he came to the game and, whatever. So again, that's the difference
mm-hmm.
of being in a situation where people cared about the kids, but also, again, you and I grew up in the inner city.
Right.
Our kids did not.
Mm-hmm. And maybe that's where the big difference is, that we're speaking of, of what things have we learned through these, parenting through these activities
right.
that we've had, because it has been such a learning thing because we didn't have that when we were younger.
Right.
You know what I mean? So all of these things are new. And like you say, hey, these are things that you wanted your parent to participate.
But new to whom?
It's new to us.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm saying that because by the time we got to the elementary school where the kids were, again, that was already a practice,
mm-hmm.
right? The challenge was, and all right, so and I'm gonna look at it from this perspective, and this is where I think the difference of living in the inner city versus those that were actually really in the suburbs itself,
mm-hmm.
right? Because even it's the ideas, because even though the school that our kids attended for elementary school, a lot of them were bused, and a lot of those kids lived in the county, quote unquote, but still had an inner city mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Because those that were actually living in the suburb mentality, those parents were active. Those who were just in the county but still had an inner city lifestyle, they were not involved.
Correct. And
there was a true
that was
split.
Noted by the principal. That was noted by many people. That there was a distinct difference, and they knew, and it
right.
happened all the time. And I was thinking when you were speaking of some of the other differences between us growing up versus when our kids were growing up. Again, not homeschool, but parent-teacher conferences. So the teacher would always say like, "Oh, we know you're going to be here."
Right.
You know what I mean?
We don't have no problems with y'all.
We have no problems with y'all. So it became the point where it's like,
well, y'all here again?
No, not even that. It was like, you want to help serve cookies and juice to the parents that do come? Like,
right.
What can we do to help people come to parent-teacher conferences? So again, I think some of the differences also are, well, when are they offered? I don't recall parent-teacher conferences being offered in the evening when I was young. Do you remember having them?
Not in the evening, but even when our kids were in elementary school, I don't think it was in the evening either. I think it was during the day.
No, we had some. I think that may have been an option.
Yeah, I don't recall, because I remember going during the day.
Yeah, I mean, right.
But
like you said, a lot of that you weren't in a corporate position, so you could make that wiggle room and make it happen.
But I also believe that, again, let's start out even just with the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Back to school night.
Yes.
Were you there? Yes. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the reality is that even if you did not go to all the report card meetings,
mm-hmm.
one, that didn't mean that you didn't attend none. You did. I mean, if there were 3, you might have been at 2. Because of the jobs that you had, you could have flexibility, whatever it is.
And again, some of that, let's make it clear that because of all the activities they were in, 1 month, it might be hey, we're singing Christmas carols. The next week,
you would attend.
And I would attend that. And then the next thing, the award show. Then, hey, we're going to hang the essays on the wall and the kids are going to stand next to them and take pictures. And then the same month is parent-teacher conference. I can't be at all of those.
And then blacks and wax. So like you said, so now you got to pick and choose.
Yeah.
So no, you did not attend every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the reality. I didn't attend every single thing either.
Right.
Because you and I kind of bounce back and forth.
Yes.
And so I think what happens is that one, as you stated, jobs are not always friendly
mm-hmm.
to the parent-child situation.
Yes.
And I think some of that too hurts in the because of that child-parents relationship, that now you have governmental
mm-hmm.
challenges where they're like, hey, well, we own your child, not you per se. Well, it's like, well, if I could get off of work,
mm-hmm.
if these rules weren't in place or whatever it is, I could be there for the kid.
Right.
If I can take off and not worry about, because guess what? They may not be the healthiest little kid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the problem. They're not the healthiest because I don't have a lot of money
mm-hmm.
and I got to buy junky type food versus
cheaper
the real
food,
healthy food.
Right.
Which again hurts the long term.
There's so many things that go into that.
So now
what if I had 5 kids? We only had 2. You know what I mean? So I was able, and you were able to take that time. They were closer in age. They were at the same school most of the time.
Right.
So it wasn't like, oh, I have to go over here and go over here. We had a car, so we can get there from work to the appointment at 3:00 versus, oh, now I got to get on 4 buses and try to get there by 3. So, yes, there's a whole lot of other things.
So many factors.
That, we have to think about. But we're talking about our experience.
Right.
And how that we look back upon it.
And I'm going to tell y'all, because, again, if you're a fan of the show, I like to look at all these law stories on YouTube.
Oh, goodness.
All these court stories. So I listen to how the state is managing the relationship. And it doesn't matter whether it's the father or the mother. It doesn't really matter. Is how they are managing the relationship between a parent and a child, but you can't. It's like it's never really taken into consideration what is the parent's real availability.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can't, if you're unable to attend a meeting for your child.
Yes.
Can you really say, all right, well, it's court mandated, but if I call out one more time, if I take off one more time, I'm going to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
So which one's more important? For me to keep my job so we can at least have a roof over our head, or for me to get, be in court? So how do I...
And for me to have a job and look like I'm a good parent and I'm able to hold down the job. You know what I mean? Because if I don't, then you're going to look down upon me because, oh, no, you don't have a job.
Right.
Well, it's because you keep calling me into court during hours where I need to be at work. They're only going to be but oh so flexible. And it's one thing to have a meeting for court, but then, okay, I went to court. Now my kid 2 days later is upset because we had a court meeting.
But then the other part is, now, here is something that we talk about as a whole. The whole point is communication.
Yes.
So you can't procrastinate. You can't delay things or whatever it is. You need to be on top of and speak up and say, hey, I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm not available. How can we maneuver this? Can I have another time? Whatever it is, do that. Because I also understand that, hey, you know what? I worked a long day and all I want to do is, is have some peace and quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get that part.
Right.
But then there's the other part of what impact is it making on your child?
Yes.
Especially if you want that child, which if y'all listen to some other shows or whatever it is, I want that child to take care of me when I get older. So now I want them to have that great, memory of me, like, hey, well, my parents did this, I can return the favor at least somewhat.
Yes.
So
my question to you is, would you have felt, you said in the beginning of the show that you wish your mother would have been active or, present in some of the activities that you participated in, whether it was football, whether it was, a concert, whatever it was that you did. You were part of the art club. If you wanted her to be there, if she would have asked you, Maurice, hey, how did it go? Would that have eased it a little bit better with her? I'm just trying to figure out, like, in reference to those parents that are out there that can't physically be present because, hey, I can't come to the show because I have, 4 other siblings that I have to take care of. I can't slug them all there.
I think there's some differences now versus then. And here's what I mean by that. And I don't recall if my mom had a relationship with any of the parents in my class.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall. Now, the reality is that because I more or less went to a neighborhood school, I knew, my mom knew the parents that lived on my block.
Right.
Where I'm in the same class as their kids.
Mm.
So, I don't know if my mom ever had a conversation with those parents. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I will say versus today. For me, if I was unavailable, all right, little Reese, do you know who taped it? Because somebody did.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody somewhere did. We could almost guarantee it. So whose parent was that?
Right.
And at least I understand that parent is probably concentrating solely on their kid.
Yes.
But I would definitely, me personally, I would look for that parent where their last name is close to yours. Because then that way, if it's before their kid, if you're before their kid, they at least get watching you walk across the stage because they're anticipating their kid, right? So you're either coming off, going, or whatever it might be. If they're before you, they can see you as they're watching their kid leave off, you're walking, whatever it might be. So there's some ways you could kind of play around with that versus someone taping just literally the whole thing. And so I would want to show some type of interest. What I'm getting at is showing some type of interest in what they done, how they accomplished it, whatever it is. Even if I could not be there, I would like to have that type of relationship with someone else's parent where we cool, and give y'all an example of my son. He had not my daughter so much, but it was my son where the other guys that he was with, their fathers would come. I don't recall any fathers really going when I used to go on trips with my daughter. But when my son and they had trips, it used to be a group of us, like a good 4, anywhere between 3 to 5 of us. It would be the same dads all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we would be sitting there busting up, cracking up, throwing pop, whatever we did.
Right.
We can't tell all of it. What stays on the bus stays on the bus.
You can't tell it all. Yes.
You know, what happens on the bus, stay on the bus, y'all. So the reality is, I had a relationship with those fathers that if anything were to go down, anything would happen, whatever it was, we were able to handle it. Mm-hmm. Now, let me go back to the daughter. The daughter had, there was one person where both her parents were active, just like us, mm-hmm. Where I could talk to the father. No, I'm sorry. It was two. It was two families. Mm-hmm. And so if there was something going on, they watched out for us. We watched out for them. Right. Just so happened our girls were good, you know, mm-hmm. relatively good. So it wasn't a whole lot of issue. But we were cool enough that if something was going down, we had it. Mm-hmm. Especially with me being able to be there during the day, you know, other stuff could be done or spoken about. I could follow up, whatever it might have been. And we're cool till today.
Yes.
Right. You know, and so the reality is that you want to be aware of one of relationships, i.e. if you're listening, I'm saying the fathers, mm-hmm. right? I'm not talking about being cool with somebody's mom. I don't want to cross those crazy lines, whatever it might have been. And so understand what those relationships could be, mm-hmm. or building up a relationship, parent-teacher relationship where, hey, now just so happened one of the teachers for our kids was in a church denomination that we grew up in.
Yes.
So we could laugh and joke about that, talk about choirs or whatever it is.
Yes.
So there were some other type of things kind of going on. And she was one that really helped us in some ways, from a teacher perspective, navigate the system. Mm-hmm. There was one thing of doing parent-teacher vibe. There was another navigating through the teacher herself, mm-hmm. who was like, yo, you know, we got this. And then eventually there were 2 other support teachers in the school that I knew from a church situation. And then another one where fraternity situation. Mm-hmm. Then because of that as well, I started talking to the principal a little bit more. Because I talked to the principal about doing other after school type programs or whatever. I did some proposals or whatever it might have been. So the reality is that if you become that parent that you wanted, you know, to see things happen or whatever it is, I'm going to be honest with you, your kid might get some passes. They might get free passes at Dorney Park or something.
I mean, I think there's, you know, again, with you being active, like I said from the top of the show, you're going to learn a whole lot about the intricacies of the organization. Right. You know, as Maurice just said, will that lead to some freebies? Yes, it will. I'm not even going to say it might. It will. Because you're leading the charge or could be leading the charge, or you're next to the person that's leading the charge in certain things. So, yeah, you could have some freebies because you'll understand the system a little bit more, and understand that, yes, people do support schools, and things are handed out, and sometimes it's not enough things to be handed out to all 500 kids in the school, or however many kids you may have, or all 20, 30 kids that are in the class. So those certain people who go extra and go give a little bit more, sometimes they're looked at differently. Mm-hmm. And there's, you know, it happens. Right. So, right. But then there's people who are in need, and those get it. Those who are in need get it. Right. Right. So definitely have learned so much from, as some say, living vicariously through our kids, or right. being a part of their things, like, you know. So I guess all the school trips that you didn't go on as a youngster, you got to go on them as an adult?
I mean, they weren't the same trips, but yeah, I went on quite a few trips.
Yes.
You know,
You got to sit on the back of the bus and cut up because you didn't do it as a youngster. So you.
I mean, I did. Well, no, not the way I did as a parent. Nowhere near.
Right. And likewise, I got to do a lot of things differently as an adult than I did as a youngster.
I mean, because I have to say that being that parent that made a difference in those kids' lives at an early age, when they see me now,
oh yeah,
it's major respect. It's hey, I remember when you bought me candy at the store, and you were the cool dad, and because we had groups, and certain parents were able to manage their group by themselves, and I just was so be designated one like that.
I mean, it goes that way not only just for the home and school and being a part of the school system as a volunteer, but also even, as you said, with our sports teams that we volunteered with. Like, I see people in our local store and they're like, still, Coach K,
right.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, what's their name?
Right,
oh, hey.
right.
And then it'll come to me or whatever. Or I'll see their parents in the store and it's just like, we're old, cousins, and it's like, you catching up, like, how the kids doing, what they doing, and just to kind of hear their stories and what's going on, and then what's going on with our kids, and you're proud because their kids are doing well, and then they're proud because our kids are doing well, like, so it's just great to have that extension of the family,
right?
You know what I mean? And we know that it takes an entire village to raise a child, and just like in this podcast, we're sharing our stories, and letting other people know that it is not always easy, and that you have ups and downs, and it's just great to be able to bump into somebody sometimes in the market and share what's going on. Yeah, so I think it's been so much that I've learned from the sidelines, just from being a teen mom and or just not doing anything at all and just kind of watching things happen, and then to be like, again, center stage and running things. Learned a lot, learned a whole lot, learned a whole lot. So
and so tell us what your stories have been, because we've been a little bit of everything.
Yes,
we've been leading stuff, as Kafi said, being center stage. We've fallen back, being on the sideline. We've even been invisible, and so I don't want to get it wrong or twist it that, hey, you know what, y'all such great parents and y'all such the example that y'all been to everything. We have not.
Nope.
We have not done everything perfectly. I mean, were we there and more often than not? Yes. But that's because of what we wanted. Did we get or did I get jammed up for leaving early, as Kafa said as well? I did, when I worked for corporate America and I had to go pick up our son because he was jacking up in preschool. Did I? Oh, I most definitely did, right? Where he was about to get kicked out and all that type of stuff. Again, you do what you got to deal with. I didn't care enough about the job, unfortunately, where I'm like, fire me. You get what I mean? I didn't care that much, because I wanted to make sure that my kid was okay. But here's the other part too. While I was at work, I was at work. I was there. I made a difference there too.
Yes.
Now, again, did I do everything perfect? I didn't do everything perfect, but I was present. So I wasn't lollygagging or whatever it was. So, not to the point where I could have, whatever. But because, again, everybody's not perfect. Everybody has bad days. Everybody has off days. Everybody has that situation where I really don't feel like being here. You right? So I don't want to get that twisted either, but I just want to make sure that y'all understand, like, hey, I don't care if you're on the sideline. I don't care if you're center stage. It doesn't matter which way you are, where you are. Just be present. That's one of the things I've learned, and that I really want to take away from being in this in this place now because in all reality, the only reason why we're talking about this is because I had a reminiscence. I mean, not reminiscence. Is it called reminiscence? That's not called reminiscence. When you reminded of the past.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why my brain just had a brain fart, whatever it was. But when you are reflecting on the past, I said, wow, Kav, what would it be like to coach again?
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, I like my life. I like the freedom right now. I'm enjoying the space that we're in. And I could kind of sit back and be like, oh, I remember those days. When I look at the Facebook page now, I look at the little feet just moving, going nowhere. Like, I just remember those days, But the reality is that enjoy the time that you have.
Yes.
Because before you know it, they're older and they don't remember half of the stuff that they did. Just like my kids don't now. They're like, oh, well, I did that. Yeah, you did. But it is what it is.
Yes.
So,
yeah, so thank you all so much for listening to today's episode. Again, please share your thoughts on how you are dealing with being on the sidelines, if that's where you are, or if you're center stage and you're leading the whole pack.
mm-hmm.
Let us know what it's like
Mm-hmm.
because it'll help us reminisce
Mm-hmm.
or think back or whatever Maurice is trying to say. But until next time, thank you so much for listening.
And we'll talk to y'all.
Bye.
Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the No Fruit Podcast, where we bring you fruitful conversations, ripened wisdom, and love that's deeply rooted. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration in their day. Until next time, stay rooted in love, and remember, every seed you plant today shapes the fruit of tomorrow.